Hi, I'm Deb Thomas, Chief Librarian of the Nelson Municipal Library. Today, in celebration of the recently passed St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to focus on Ireland, its literature, its history, its landscape, and its music. Many of us think of James Joyce when we think of Irish literature, perhaps because of his well-recorded revolt against the Irish Catholic society in which he was raised. And he did indeed write several great works of art, among them Ulysses, The Dubliners, Finnegan's Wake, and The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which I have here. This last book is the semi-autobiographical story of Stephen Dedalus, his Irish Catholic upbringing and his struggles within it and against it. Its strengths are in Joyce's ability to capture each stage of Dedalus's life as if he were there, speaking from the perceptions of an infant, a child, an adolescent, and a young man. H.G. Wells in 1916 called it the most living and convincing picture that exists of being raised as an Irish Catholic. Irish literature, in fact, has a long and ancient tradition. The first recorded writings in Irish Gaelic date back to the 4th and 5th century A.D. From these early writings sprang the great bardic tradition, which continued strongly into the early 17th century. Then, a period of strong English influence and repression of Irish culture brought Irish literature to its lowest point. In the 18th and early 19th century, catechisms and devotional tracts were all that were, to a large extent, what remained of Irish prose. Beginning in the late 19th century and continuing into the 20th century, however, an Irish literary revival was spawned by such great writers as William Butler Yeats, Brendan Behan, Liam O'Flaherty, Sean O'Casey, and John Millington Synge. It is worth remembering, too, that Ireland gave birth to two other literary giants, George Bernard Shaw and Oscar Wilde, who was born Fingal O'Flaherty Wills. With this admittedly very quick and quite shallow history of Irish literature, I'll introduce you to a few Irish writers still living and writing today. Edna O'Brien wrote her first novel, The Country Girls, in 1960. And has since produced 17 novels and books of short stories, of which the library has 7. Lantern Slides, this book, was published in 1990, and it's a collection of stories set in Ireland, England, and in various vacation locales. Her real landscapes, however, are the inner ones. Her stories tell of the fears, desires, regrets, and joys of characters who O'Brien's skills allows us to know instantly and intimately. O'Brien is among the writers in a collection called Forgiveness, Ireland's Best Contemporary Short Stories. For those who think there have been no great Irish writers since those named earlier, this book is a delightful education, not only about the breadth and depth of modern Irish writing, but about the character of the Irish and of Ireland itself. The editor, Augustine Martin, notes that the Irish short story is approaching its 100th birthday. She credits George Moore, whose Untilled Field appeared in 1903, with being the founder of the form in Ireland. This new group of writers, she says, follows in the footsteps of their accomplished predecessors by using the short story to reflect and challenge, more than in any other literary form, Irish social and political conditions. Aside from O'Brien, not many of the names are familiar to the Canadian eye, as no doubt many of our writers would be unfamiliar in Ireland. Consider this your opportunity to cross the Atlantic and to enjoy some wonderfully good stories as well. Another popular modern Irish writer is Maeve Binchy, who I am unable to discuss today as all of her books are currently on loan, a testament to her local popularity. I have promised to show you something of Irish history, landscape, and music as well. I will not take the time to give you as much history here, but will briefly introduce you to a few more books which will give you the opportunity to investigate Ireland further. Jill and Leon Uris's Ireland, A Terrible Beauty tempts the reader with hundreds of pictures and a body of well-written text which gives us Ireland, its history in brief, from the Stone Age migrations of the island's first inhabitants to the modern conflicts between Protestant and Catholic, its people, the common folk and the famous, its structures from the ancient standing stones to the neighborhood pubs, and its places, north, south, east, and west, gray with concrete or emerald green. This is a marvelous introduction for those who know little about the rich character of Ireland. J.P. Donlevy's Ireland is a testament by another great writer of Irish descent to this character in, as the subtitle says, all her sins and in some of her graces. A feast of anecdote and autobiography, this is a homage to the 1940s, when a man would take a degree at Trinity College in Dublin in drinking, harlotry, fighting, and lively political and literary discussions with the likes of Brendan Behan. Donlevy was born in the United States, the son of Irish immigrants, but went back to Ireland to study in 1946, and has found that she remains in his blood and colors his writing to this day. For those who wish a less specific and more comprehensive look at Irish history, R.F. Foster's Modern Ireland, 1600 to 1972, is just the ticket. He calls the book an attempt to clarify some of the realities which lie behind the myths of Irish history. He begins in 1600, and the year of the establishment of the Ulster Plantation as the Elizabethan Wars drew to a close, and ends in 1972, the year in which the Republic joined the EEC and the Stormont Parliament in Northern Ireland was suspended. Foster's treatment offers both an important general statement and a decisive personal view of Irish history over the last 3.5 centuries. Lastly, very little bit on Irish music, so integrally tied to its literature by the bardic tradition of early Irish culture. This little book is called Irish Street Ballads and is a collection annotated and edited by, and this is a nice Gaelic name and I'm not sure I can pronounce it correctly, Colm O'Loughlin in the 1920s and 30s and reissued in 1960 with the help of Irish short story writer Frank O'Connor. The ballads are all in English, though some have Gaelic titles, and date mostly from 18th and 19th century Ireland. They are illustrated with woodcuts from the original broadsheets and provide, as much as any literature or history, a glimpse into the lively nature of the Irish character and the influences which shaped it. We also do have some music in the library, Irish music. Off the top of my head, again, these tapes are all out because they're so popular, so I wasn't able to bring them to you today to show to you. But there is one called A Horse with a Heart by an modern Irish group called Altan. And we have several tapes which have Celtic influences, Canadian artists with Celtic influences like Bornan MacLeod, Lorena McKinnon, and Rare Air. I'll leave you here with the hope that the interested among you will pursue your studies further among these and many other books in our collection on Ireland and the Irish. Thank you. We'll see you next month.